Hello guys, welcome back to another video. This video is part of the Kaspa Christmas giveaway series where we'll be giving away Kaspa coin in each video. So this is about educating more people about Kaspa coin and also giving back to you guys. So the way that it works, there'll be 12 word seed phrase hidden in each video somewhere, and you'll have to find each word and input it into a wallet. Then you can unlock the wallet and do whatever you want with the Kaspa coin. Each wallet was made through kaspawallet.io and will be linked in the description. Each wallet is also password protected, but that will also be in the description as well. Make sure you like this video for more of this content and comment down below if you found the seed phrase and got into the wallet. So today we're going to be looking at the maximum transactions per second and the maximum blocks per second we can see on Kaspa coin going on into the future. So currently we're still at that 1 second block time, I believe, but underlying it is obviously all the Rust nodes. We'll have a little look into that later on. But just as a visualizer, you can kind of see what the network is running at now. So 1 blocks per second is still actually extremely quick for a network. You know, Ethereum will be in one of the largest ones, only has a 13-second block time. Solana, I'm not too sure on the figures of that, but Bitcoin has a 10-minute block time. So you can kind of see how quick Kaspa coin is without the Rust rewrite, and we can kind of get an idea of the maximum potential blocks per second that Kaspa coin could do possibly in the future, and the transactions per second. So this is just chugging along. You know, there's only, there's sometimes 4 within a second right there, then it evens out to 1, and there might be a 3-second space in between here and here, so that evens it out to 1 blocks per second. That's kind of what it looks like here. We do have the testnet for Rust actually up here, and this is kind of the speed that it's moving at right now. So you can see speed is way quicker than what we're seeing here. So we can actually zoom this out. So that's kind of the same scale, and you can see that these aren't moving very quickly compared to when we're looking at here. So I think this is on testnet, and you can see the speed of the network is extremely quick when we're doing this on Rust. So this is at 10 blocks per second. I don't think the update has actually fully come through because obviously we're not on Rust yet, so we won't actually be seeing those 10 blocks per second like in a line like this. It'd normally be 5, 4, something like that. But you can see how extremely quick this is, regardless of if we're on the actual network or not. There is still potential in the future to see this. So currently, as I said, at 1 blocks per second, moving quickly. When it goes over to Rust, it's going to basically have 10 times the throughput, so it's not going to make it quicker. The block time is still going to be 1 block, but it's going to be 10 blocks per 1 second. So the transaction time is not going to be quicker, but the throughput is going to be more. So that's what you're looking for. 1 second is already very quick for a transaction to go through, so there's not really much point in trying to dial that below 1 second, because nobody really needs it quicker than that at 1 second. So currently, if it moves over, it'll be at 10 blocks per second to start off with, and that gives you around, I believe, 4,000 transactions per second. So currently we're working at 400 transactions per second, because I believe you can have maximum 400 transactions in 1 block right now. And then if we have 10 blocks per second, times that number by 10, so that gives us 4,000 transactions per second. So that's, I think it's equivalent to Solana, the maximum amount that they've kind of hit before at 4,000 transactions per second. Obviously, we still need to see where that actually plays out in terms of a real world scenario. It's all good and well saying that it can do it, but if it doesn't play out in the real world, then it's kind of a flop in my opinion, just because you can't actually prove that that works. So that's what the transactions per second and blocks per second will look like when it moves over to Rust. However, there are plans in place. When we look here, it says the maximum transactions per second and blocks per second. Given above some concrete numbers, I believe the goal of 32 blocks per second is definitely possible. So at 32 blocks per second, you would have around 12,000, I want to say 12,000 transactions per second on the network, which is a whole lot of transactions per second, and obviously that's going to take a rigorous amount of testing to get that implemented, but they can also incrementally change it up to 32. So they could maybe add 11 blocks per second after a couple of months. They could do it like an emission schedule, like every month the transactions per second is going to increase by 1 block, So by the time that we get, 3 years down the line, we're at 32 blocks per second. And that kind of naturally scales it, or hopefully should naturally scale it to the amount of users that come onto a network. So there's more users over time, more need to have more transactions per second. I think that's one of the best ways that they could implement it, by incrementally putting it up every month or in demand with how much users are on the network. They could also decrease it if there's not as much users on the network. So at 32, it's around 12,000 transactions per second. And then at 100 blocks per second, I don't believe it's 20,000. I believe it would actually be 40,000 because there's still 400 transactions in a block. Let me know if I'm getting that wrong, but I believe it's switched from 200 to 400. Please, as I said, let me know in the comments if that's wrong, but still 20,000 to 40,000 transactions per second at 100 blocks per second. So increasing the throughput by a factor of 100. But remember that the speed is not changing at all. It's still going to be a transaction every second. So once you process a transaction, it's going to happen within the second, and then you'll probably see it in the wallet a couple seconds after, depending on if it updates. Because mainly, it's not really about the network necessarily, it's kind of about the internet connection at that point. Like how quickly your internet updates or refreshes to actually give you that data. So I think like once you get below, I'd say 4 seconds block time, you're probably going to have to rely on the internet actually being faster to get data quicker on the transactions. Anything above that, it would actually be natural delay from the network, I think. So as I said, current block size would translate to 6,400 or 20,000 transactions per second, but block size can also be theoretically increased to find a sustainable amount of transactions per second, where the only limiting factor becomes the internet connection. So I didn't actually read that, but that kind of goes back to our own point. When it says things like this, we can kind of conclude that it would be able to go past maybe 100 blocks per second. So we could even look further for transactions per second, but there also might not be a need to go up to that many transactions per second, just because I don't think a massive amount of users on the network would constantly be hitting 20,000 transactions per second. It's more of a future-proof thing that if more things use it and smart contracts come along, there might actually be a need to increase it further. But they can find a safe spot. Maybe it's, I don't know, between 10 and 32 blocks per second. It might be 20 blocks per second. And that might just be enough to hold the network without hitting the limits of transactions on the network. So remember, that's only the maximum that you can hit. It's nowhere near what the real world figures or values would be currently on the Kaspa Coin network. We have a couple of charts here. So this is average transactions per second. We can go here, we can go on period, maybe in the last 3 months. And you can see, I think this is the KLC 20. So average is 103, and then it dips down 22, 24. Remember, this is transactions per second. So you have 37 and then 33, and then it scrolls down here. Currently 2 to 16 or 12 transactions per second on the network that's actually happening on average. And then we can go to maximum transactions per second. So this is going to show us the maximum that, in theory, should be on the network. I believe this is the switch over and then the KLC 20. So you have, I don't know, 200, 500, 300, 300, 118, comes up to 800, 1,000 right there, and then there's another one right here for 1.07 thousand transactions per second. So that's the max in theory that you can hit up to, which is still pretty good because we're still on that 1 second block time currently. So we haven't actually moved over to that 10 blocks per second. If you go on Kaspa.fyi, you can see the real-time blocks per second is hovering above the 1 second block time. So it's like 1.2, 1.3 blocks per second on the network, which is, a little bit more, but it should average out to 1 blocks per second. And hopefully it should be 10. As you can see there, it just dropped below 0.8. So it comes in and out as blocks come on the network. Right here, we just have a visualizer of kind of the blocks per second on the Kaspa network. If we pause this here, so Bitcoin, we have Cardano, Solana, Kaspa at 10 blocks per second, Kaspa at 32 blocks, and then at 100 blocks per second below here. So I'll just show you that. you can see Bitcoin moving extremely slow. Solana is still relatively quick, I guess. And then Kaspa, 10 blocks per second, is relatively quick. Once it gets to 32 blocks per second, it's basically you can't even keep track of the blocks that are going through, and then 100 blocks per second is just insane. That would be probably one of the biggest achievements in cryptocurrency for both proof of work and proof of stake, to actually show that this can be possible, even on layer 1s with proof of work, is extremely impressive. So hopefully we do get to that point as well. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Make sure you like the video and subscribe for more content like this.